Okay, so what's your view on atheism and agnosticism?
Okay, great. I'd rather follow on to the discussion that me and Ian were having.
Oh, okay.
Ian made generally he made a few claims, but first one is that he is an atheist, so he doesn't have to provide any evidence. Now, what I had said, if that was the case, then he would be agnostic, because agnostic means I do not know. When you're saying you are a theist, you are saying that I know that God exists. When you are saying you are an atheist, if you break out the word a, it means the absence of, or you are not believing in God. So now that onus or burden of proof is also on your shoulder as well as my shoulder. So me as a theist, I have to prove that I believe in God. You as an atheist would have to prove that there is no God.
Okay, so let me address that. So, would you agree there's a difference between knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll give you my definition and you tell me if you're happy with that. So for me, belief is accepting a proposition as true or likely true. That's a belief. Accepting a proposition as true or likely true.
The acceptance of something to exist or be true is what I think belief means. And if you check the Oxford Dictionary, that's what it says.
I've not seen that one before. So when we say we know something, there's a difference, I'm sure you would agree. When we talk colloquially, like we'll say, oh, I know the sun's coming up, I know the cab's going to come fetch me, I know the bus is coming. There's a difference when you say no from a philosophical point of view, I guess, which is, so my version is reliably produced true belief. Instead of, as you might know from philosophy, justified true belief, there's a problem with that. So reliably produced true belief is kind of the definition of knowledge. So technically, for me, if you ask me, I'm an agnostic atheist, because they address two separate claims. One is a belief claim, one is a knowledge claim. So I'm an agnostic atheist. I do not say God does not exist. I do not believe in God, and I reject your theist claim. Now, if people know what they're talking about, and if they're honest, every theist would be an agnostic theist, unless they've got some knockdown argument I've never heard of. Because none of us know for sure, would you agree? None of us know. So when somebody says they know, what they really mean is I've got a high level of certainty in my belief.
Sure. What you last said, the high level of certainty, is very important. We don't know anything in terms of 100%. We can have a high confidence based on probability and possibility. I agree with that. So we're just making suppositions. So the intention today, as with every other Sunday, is to explore and discuss the justifiers that show a true belief. Yeah, the justifiers is what justifies a true belief. You were mentioning philosophical terms, so I'll just introduce. Let's look at the justifiers. So the universe, we know it's expanding.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yeah, I'll be okay to say we know it's expanding.
Okay, let me just, for the sake of everyone, just explain why it is expanding. If you have any
Okay, but before you go there, if you're going to go to the universe, because you wanted to address Ian's thing, so let's finish that part.
No, you had the opportunity
No, the reason I want to say you're talking about me, though, with great respect, and if you want to talk to me off camera, then I have a right to reply to what you're saying. Right, I said to you, you can call me atheist, agnostic, which is just a label. I made it very clear I do not believe in God and gave you reasons why I didn't believe in it. I was very true to my belief, okay? Why I don't believe there is a God, and that's where we were.
Okay, I don't think you gave the evidence.
Now there is no filming evidence of this discussion.
So next week there will.
So we'll do it next week.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Rob. I have to do this because otherwise I've got no issue with it. But you're making claims about me without me being able to answer.
Well, next week you can justify your belief.
I knew or whatever. Absolutely. All I'm saying is, my point of view, I don't believe there is a God.
Yeah, sure. I respect you.
Is that what he said?
I did say I did not believe.
If that's what he said, I've got no problem with that.
No, he said he's an atheist.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, because
do you know why? Because he's trying to label within what he's
Ian, we'll discuss another time, just for the fluidity.
But you know I do not believe in God and gave you my reasons why.
You didn't give reasons, but
I gave you plenty of reasons.
You have time next week.
To record, I understand that, but I did give them to you.
Okay, so I see with that.
One second. So the expansion of the universe, we say in 1916 you had the chap called Einstein.
Yes.
Everyone knows Einstein. He came up with the theory or the equation E equal to mc squared, which showed the universe was expanding. In 1927.
No, that's not what that equation shows. But
this is one of the implications of the equation. That's why he introduced the cosmological constant, which he later said was the greatest
you've read the book, good. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
So E equals to mc squared does show that the universe is expanding.
Well, it talks about gravity, doesn't it?
We'll get back to that. Le matter, even if you disagree with one of the premises, as long as you agree with one of the other premises, the point can be made. So Lemaitre in 1927, he found something which is similar. Empirical evidence was established by Edwin Hubble in 1928. This was later confirmed by Penziel and Wilson in 1956.
Yes.
And then the Colby Explorer in 1992 also confirmed, because of the temperature that was found in the galaxy,
and the
universe. We don't have to go into too much detail on this, but we know now that the universe is expanding.
Yes.
If something were to have been expanding and we were to reverse time,
yes,
that means that the universe must have, according to science, come from a singularity.
No.
Okay, could you explain why?
So there are various theories, and I'll just give you 3 of them because hopefully, okay, let me just make sure. Are you saying it that it's, no, let's leave it for a moment. I won't go there because otherwise we'll move on. So there are...
Are we using phones?
Well, just to give you, so that you can see a picture. I think it's easiest. So I don't know if you guys can see that. There we go. So that's the most well-known model. That's the inflationary model, which you're probably well aware of, yeah? Which says that the universe began from an infinitely dense, infinitely hot point. Correct. But there are competing models. There's one that this model suggests that the universe had no first cause. So what we've got to be careful is what we really should be saying is we don't know for sure at this stage. And so for you to claim that the universe came from a singularity, in other words, it had a beginning in the sense that you understand, we're not at that point. So we can't make that strong claim.
Okay.
Not even the cosmologists can do
Rob, what is the strongest opinion amongst physicists? Is it this model or is it the singularity model?
So it's split, but most of the data points towards the inflationary model.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. That's why I'm dealing with it, because only a marginal amount of physicists refer to these such models.
True.
One second, the consensus amongst the scientific community say that the universe came from a singularity. So I don't want to here deal with fringe opinions. Otherwise we're going to be jumping into every single opinion.
I agree in one sense, but then you mustn't make claims that something else is impossible.
Okay, great.
That's the main thing.
So the point here now is that there's high confidence that the universe came from a singularity, and you have to.
I wouldn't say high confidence.
According to reliance on other physicists who are authoritative in their field. You and I are not authoritative.
Don't make it sound like it's like a sure thing, because it's not.
No, but I'm saying that I'll repeat the language, that we can have a high confidence based on relying on authoritative physicists.
Even my buddy Phil, who's a cosmological expert, would step back from saying that language. But okay, let's. The reason why, I mean, okay, you can laugh.
Okay,
the reason why, because I don't want to make those sort of strong claims.
So let me follow through from the discussion.
Sure.
Now, all laws of physics break down at the singularity. Yes, because either way, you have to, even if it's the Big Crunch and the singularity model, all laws of physics, would you agree, break down at the point of singularity?
So general relativity gives out, is what you mean.
No, all laws of science.
Quantum mechanics doesn't. That's how they explain it.
Okay. So where would you say that the universe came from?
There's various options there. So I don't know is my answer. I don't know, quote, where the universe came from. That's why I gave you the other models.
Okay, but it must have come from somewhere. Would you conclude that?
So there's different options, but yes, philosophically, I think something would have to always have existed.
So something would have always existed. We all heard this now. Allow me to build up on my discussion. Sure. Now, the universe is made out of certain properties. Now, that thing that created the universe, would it be in the universe or outside the universe? If it created the universe,
are we only talking about
Let me make the point and then we can...
No, but talk to me. It's not an audience discussion. Stay with me.
Okay, the universe, it had a point of creation, and you mentioned that something created something. This is what you said.
Careful, don't use the word creation.
Okay, something caused it.
Caused what?
The universe to Big Bang.
Something caused the universe to Big Bang.
What did you just say?
You know about inflationary model, yes?
Yeah. But hear what you said. Yeah, I asked you, did something cause the movement in the Big Bang?
Something caused the movement in the Big Bang.
You said something before.
Yeah,
What did
sure,
you say?
okay, it's just not
something.
language that I'm...
Now, time is a property of the universe. This something dwells outside of the universe. So time, as we know, is not in that realm where that thing, as he said, exists. So that thing is timeless. Material is also a property of that universe. So that thing which is timeless is also immaterial.
I'm next to you. You're shouting, it's okay.
So that thing is timeless, immaterial.
Yes, I know where you're going.
Yeah,
yes.
immaterial. It did cause the creation of the universe. Yes, but the universe, if it had a beginning, it is a creation. Now, under naming systems, what do we call something that possesses these superhuman attributes?
Well, I don't know, because I don't accept that that it's a something in the sense that you mean.
said something.
In the sense that you mean.
What sense did you mean?
So
Because it seems now that this is semantics, that you run away from your own claim. I understand. Let me expand on that. You said it is a something. I explained there are certain attributes which are only properties of the universe. That thing which dwells outside the universe has to have the properties of eternal, timeless, spaceless, and there's more. For example, the universe runs in laws, the laws of physics, laws of motion, instead of lawlessness. So these laws, intelligence has to come from somewhere. So this thing which is eternal, timeless, spaceless, immaterial is also a lawgiver. So how would you respond to this?
Sure, there's multiple options out there. We are speculating because we don't have science on this. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
But we have to go to.
But we're all speculating. So I can give you alternative models. One is the quantum vacuum, and later on today there'll be a gentleman here, if you stay here long enough, who will give you the exact information. But the quantum vacuum can bring a universe into existence exactly the way we've got ours. So we now have a non-naturalistic explanation. We also have the multiverse. And if that's true, because the beginning that you're talking about from Alan Guth postulates a multiverse. There's no cosmologist on Earth that I'm aware of that postulates that God created the universe. Okay. So whichever beginning you want to go back to, every single one of them will have some kind of naturalistic explanation.
Okay, great.
So you can't take one of them and then say, oh, I'm not going to accept what they say for the beginning, because that's
the majority of physicists, are you saying they do not believe in God?
The majority of?
Physicists.
I don't know about the majority. I would imagine so.
Yeah, I don't know how to quantify something.
Well, if we look at the American, Scientific Institute in America, about 97% are non-theists.
Okay.
But that's besides the point.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure how we quantify this anyway, but what's interesting, do you know the gentleman who came up with the string theory, or helped with the string theory, Mikio?
Yes, yeah, he's a little bit airy-fairy in the sense.
He's authoritative though.
Yeah, he's more like woo, he's more like consciousness is out there floating about. I'm not sure you'd want to quote him though. How's he help you?
Oh yeah, sure. He previously was an atheist, but he said there's too much complexity.
So what is he now?
Now he's a deist.
Deist is more...
You wanted me to say theist.
No. But
he's a deist.
I've got less problem with a deist.
Deist is a person who believes that there is, let's say, God. Because this is the only word that encapsulates the definitions we gave earlier, or the attributes we gave earlier, such as timelessness, immaterial, lawgiver, and you still haven't given a name for that. So in order to kind of move forward, what name would you give to this thing? This is the word you use, thing.
No, not what thing.
You said thing.
What thing do you want me to give a name to?
The thing that caused the universe.
So I said to you, one option is the quantum vacuum, another is the multiverse.
Okay, so
or another one is the laws of physics, because one of the things that my cosmological buddy, who's much more studied than I am, said to me is, what prevents the laws of physics from existing eternally? What prevents just the laws of physics, the laws themselves?
Yeah. This is a strange thing. If it was abstract things to live for or to exist forever, I would understand. But laws of physics being a property of the universe, I don't think that universe can be eternal.
No, not the universe, but the laws.
But the laws of physics dwell within the universe, right? It's the property of the universe.
But they could be outside of the universe.
That's postulating. But what we do know is that the laws of physics is a property of the universe.
Correct.
So we know the universe doesn't exist forever, correct? Or do you think otherwise?
I'm undecided on that because again, I've got a model that shows it can exist forever.
Okay, one of the concepts is if there was an infinite sequence of events in the past, we would never be in the present.
Yes, I know.
Now this
That's
has
a
been
misunderstanding.
yeah, could you explain perhaps?
I'm not an expert, but I've got the video on this with full explaining. There's a misunderstanding on the infinite regress because there's two versions of time, an A and a B theory. And the theists who come up with this, you can't go backwards in time, use a particular theory of time which most cosmologists don't accept. And so using the other theory of time, you don't have that problem. I'm just giving you like a very broad thing. I've got the video which I can add to my channel if we like, so that I can cut in my guy who's actually giving the explanation if we want to learn. If we want information, then we need to speak to the experts.
None of us are walking encyclopedias. I can see this, and you know, someone.
But I wish my buddy Phil, if you're going to come here, I'll take you.
I'm not a philosopher.
No. But you're talking a lot about the universe. But you seem to know a little bit. I know a little bit. We're both kind of ignorant to a degree.
I'm very
me too. No, I don't know. I'll challenge you. I'm probably just as ignorant. But anyway, I've got somebody who's got a lot of knowledge on this. And so if you want to give me your details, I'll see if I can get him down. He doesn't come often because most people he talks to, it's like
because me and you are engaging.
Sure.
I set the argument that there's something, using your words, that created the universe that has certain attributes.
Yeah, but that's
eternal. Now you said that thing which is what you would call, what was it you said? Quantum physics is what you call it. I call it God.
The quantum vacuum.
You call it,
yeah, but there's a difference, isn't there?
Yeah, but this is what you call it because I gave the attributes such as law. Yeah, all laws, they don't come out of nowhere. If this universe was the result of a sequence of random events, then there will be no laws of physics. Things would just be up in the air, complete randomness. But the fact that we don't see randomness is evidence that it must have come from some kind of designer.
No.
I know you don't like that.
No, of course not. Well, I mean, look, if that was a knockdown argument, then we'd all be theists. We would not be speaking about this. And the fact of the matter is, nobody in science has that conclusion. So when we go with your inflationary model, which is the model you wanted to go with, I wanted to show you there's other models, but you went, no, I don't want to talk about other ones.
No, I want to speak about the dominant.
Yeah, but I've said we don't know for sure, but now you want to hone in on one, and you want to make it like it's a fact, and I'm very cautious of saying it's a fact.
I'm apologies if I've come across, in a bad
because you said, it's impossible for the universe to have existed eternally, and I've got the model here. I went to you know Sir Roger Penrose? You've heard of him?
Penrose, yes. Sir Roger Penrose, yes.
I sat in the room and we asked the question. I have the model here.
Is he the one that said that if there were to be an explosion in a in a car?
No, that was, I think that was Francis Crick or somebody.
No, he wrote the language of God.
But there's the model, and this is what I sat. Can you see that?
Yeah.
See that there? So this is the model, and I sat in the room with him and he explained this model. This model shows universes going back infinitely in the past and infinitely in the future, and he gives I'm not saying this is probable. What I am saying is this doesn't violate the laws of physics. That's all I'm saying. So to come here and say that it can only be one way.
No, I've not said that. I've said that I know science, it changes. But what we have to do is, if we're professing science, is that what you profess science?
I believe science gives us the best current explanation for natural events.
So the best current explanation of the existence of the universe is the Big Bang Theory.
Inflationary model would be the
inflationary model. Okay, so we can kind of move past.
Okay, as long as you don't say anything else is impossible, otherwise I'll draw you back to that. So just stay away from the word impossible. Because some Muslims run around here saying, it's impossible for a universe to create itself.
Some people run around saying that.
Yes, you probably know who they are.
If we're going to be accurate with words, we have to say everyone does this. Because I think some of our atheist friends also do this.
Yes, that could be true.
Yeah, so we don't need to kind of specify and say only Muslims.
Well, when they make the claim that something's impossible, I don't know any atheists that say that things are impossible. If you point them out to me, I will have a conversation.
Okay, so are you willing to concede there may be a probability that God exists?
I can't rule it out, yes.
Okay.
But I've never said I can. I've been at the park here for about a year and a half. I've never claimed that God does not exist.
Okay,
what I've always claimed to, which we started with.
Atheist.
There you go.
So, okay, great. Do you think, my last question to you, the only thing I can think about discussing is, do you think science explains everything?
No.
What's your reasoning as to why you're justifying?
Well, just because we don't have enough data yet. but we keep getting the data. So my words is science keeps improving. When I hear theists talk, they go, oh, science changes, and they want to make it appear as if science is unreliable. Okay,
but do you think
and I don't agree with that.
Do you recognize the limits of science? For example, metaphysical truths such as the conscious, the mind, all of these things. Do you think science can explain metaphysical truths, ethical judgments such as good and bad? I don't think.
Okay, you're jumping to a lot of different things. What I don't what I don't think science can answer per se is whether there's a God outside the universe. However, if the God dipped his finger into this universe and did something miraculous that defied the laws of physics.
Is that your definition of miraculous? It defies the laws of
defies our understanding of physics. So
I wouldn't describe it as that.
Okay, but in principle, we could talk about that, but in principle, if God in some way did something in this universe, science could investigate that.
No, not necessarily so. If we have a being that exists beyond the universe, that being is supernatural. The prefix super means above.
Yes.
So if he lives beyond, or if he exists beyond nature, we call it supernatural. Now that supernatural being, or thing as you described, has the ability to suspend the laws of nature at any given time. Do you follow through with that logic?
Yes. So if a being is
the footprints of the supernatural being does not necessarily have to be explained through sciences.
Well, I'm not saying it can be explained necessarily, but what I'm saying is science could. So let's give an example. I had this discussion with Darren Hamza, and we used the example of I said to him, "What's a miracle that's happened?" He said to me, "The flood." I went, "Okay, great." So if we could find the ark and it was mounted on top of Mount Ararat, and we could do DNA evidence, and we could see that it had every single animal that had existed on the planet. There was evidence in the ark. We could date the material of the ark to 6000 BC. We could find salt water there as well, things that couldn't be. Now I would say that's a more reasonable position that in fact a flood happened. How else could this have happened? Now you could say, oh, that's an argument from ignorance, but I'm more reasonable. Now I'm justified in going, hey, this ark got to the top of Mount Ararat, it's dated 6,000 years, we've got all the animal DNA. Do you know what? Maybe in fact that flood did happen. That's a more reasonable explanation. So given that example, there we use science to give us a more reasonable explanation, and that's what I mean when I say science could investigate.
I think sometimes we ask more than that we can actually do. The historical tools are limited. Now what miracle would you accept? Because even if a miracle happened, many atheists or agnostic atheists, they don't accept it. For example, if the writing came in the sky, God exists.
Yes.
Most atheists will still say it's not convincing. So by the standard which an agnostic atheist may use, what miracle would you accept?
Sure, okay. So here's something that would be convincing for me. If in fact the stars did rearrange themselves and we could look up there and we can observe it around the world, we could record it independently around the world. We look down at the molecules, we look through a telescope at the smallest molecules, and they had written in their DNA, Allah is true. And everybody could confirm that. And we all had a personal experience that Allah spoke to us and revealed the Quran. And I spoke to you and I spoke to every human here, and we all went, oh shit, you know what, he spoke to me and the Quran is true. I'm going, this is evidence for me. You could say to me, oh, but the aliens are still probing your brain and that sort of nonsense, but it's not reasonable. Now I'm reasonably justified in accepting that Allah is in fact true.
So if it was written in the DNA, but we say DNA is a complex language, that complexity cannot come from nothing. So where did this complexity in DNA, and this is an example, you said that you would accept this as a miracle.
So I said if it had the signature of Allah written into there.
Yeah, we say DNA is the signature of God. Oh God. In fact, the language of God by a gentleman who you mentioned before, Francis Crick, he argues this, and he was one of the persons who had mapped the genome, human genome.
Yes, yeah.
You're aware of that, and this is exactly what he says in his book.
Yeah.
The argument for God. He said the language of God is what is called the book, and this is the very thing that he argues. But you still would not accept this.
No, but remember, when I gave you my example, we need to take all of that into. I'm not going to take bits and pieces. I said to you, if all of those things happen, I would be justified in accepting that Allah is in fact true.
Yeah,
because you asked me for
an example. You want more than one thing.
Of course, yeah.
Or you want compound things.
But you asked me for an example, and I gave you a series that together, if all of those things happen, and we can confirm that, I'm as an atheist going, do you know what? I'll
So
exist.
now, the whole point of belief is there's this element of uncertainty that you have to kind of have some self-conscious and retrospectiveness about what's around you and everything. If something came out clear cut and said, I am the God, you know, I exist, it leaves nothing left to the imagination. It wouldn't be much of a test or a life. It would be quite ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's just,
Do you understand from a theological point
yeah, but
of
that's
view
just a
that
claim.
it takes away. It takes away.
No. That's just a claim. You're making a claim that it's a test, and that's an easy way to get out of the problem of evil, etc. So Muslims, it's an easy test. You just go, hey, Allah's testing us, and we've got free will, etc., etc. But there's a lot of problems. I mean, I don't know how much you want to get. Maybe we do that conversation again another time.
Yeah.
But just to say the word test is like a backdoor from my point of view that goes, oh, now you can escape the problem of evil and free will and all this by just going, hey, it's a test. You guys just
maybe we can get into this a bit more detail.
I've got a challenge.
It's been a pleasure.
speaking.
1 second, just one last thing. All of these issues of free will, morality, evil, they all exist in every single system, not just Islam or Christianity. Even in atheism, you have the problem of determinism, free will, evil, judgment. So it's not something which is unique. So even if an atheist proves that these problems exist, it exists not just in the Abrahamic faith, but in the atheist.
I'm happy to have that conversation with you as well, where we can talk about the problems in my worldview, because I'm not claiming my worldview is perfect, but otherwise, everybody should believe it.
But there's a disclaimer on my half, as in none of us are walking encyclopedias, so I may have made mistakes, and I ask you to forgive me if I come across.
No problem at all. Let me take your details off camera, because I run a show every Friday, and I like intelligent people like you to come on and have conversations. If you don't want to do that, that's fine.
Have Ian on your show.
Yeah, I can have Ian, but he's an atheist already.
Sure.
So what was your name again?
It is Hamza.
Hamza?
Pleasure speaking to you.
You too, buddy.
Take care.